How are your sons doing? Grandchildren now? Zamda Mitra.
Namaskar and good evening, everyone. First of all, a big thank you to all of you taking time from your busy day to be here. Friday is always hard to drive and traffic and so on, so thank you very much. I believe it is a solemn day and an important day. Balidan Diwas is a stark reminder of what happened in Kashmir 30 plus years ago. Today, we commemorate 33rd Balidan Diwas, also referred to as Kashmiri Hindu Martyr Day. We commemorate this so that we do not forget and we make sure it does not happen again in the future. I'm sure many of the Kashmiri families who are here must have experienced the trauma and the suffering and the pain in some shape or form many years ago. But yet, it is important to mention that by many accounts, the assassination of Shri was the beginning, or it marked the beginning of an organized genocide against Kashmiri Hindus. And we commemorate that, we remember that. He was a true patriot, a human being, honest human being, who was probably one of the first martyrs of this cause. ये बात सभी को मालूम है, सभी को मालूम थी, लेकिन इसका बार बार कहना बहुत जरूरी है। बलिदान दिवस एक श्रद्धांजलि दिवस भी है और ये श्रद्धांजलि उन सभी लोगों के लिए है जो इस आतंकवाद के शिकार हुए। I will not take too much time because we have very speakers, very well-known speakers here, and quite a few people want to say words. So I'm just going to couple of housekeeping items and announcements. First of all, I want to acknowledge Dr. Archana Kukru, who has been working tirelessly for this. A round of applause for her. This has been some other initiatives that we have done with KOA, and it's been tremendous for us a couple of years. Also, a special round of applause for Mohan Ji, who is very well known in this community. Not just for Kashmiri causes, but for many other causes, as you are all aware. He needs no introduction. We are fortunate to have on this Balidan Diwas, Sushil Ji amongst us. He will be addressing the gathering also, and most of you must have heard him many times on YouTube or in person. He will be here, and there are many other speakers also following him. With that said, I'm going to ask Mohan Ji to take the mic and start the proceedings and kick off the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay Ji. It is indeed a somber occasion that all of us have gathered here to commemorate. So I would request all of you to have a 1 minute of silence for the departed souls who laid down their lives for our country. each one of you also has a diya, which I will request you to light in memory of our fallen heroes. Thank you all. Please. have a seat. As Sanjay ji mentioned, we have all gathered here to commemorate the Balidan Diwas, which is the first day that the first martyr in Kashmir laid down his life, fighting and standing for the three basic values that human beings have: freedom of thought, freedom of speech, and freedom of practicing our own faith. Yet, there was an organized process by which these three freedoms were seen as a threat by the other side, and they carried out the greatest genocide in which thousands and thousands of Kashmiri Pandits were massacred in the most gruesome manner. And close to about 500,000 of them ran away for their lives and became refugees in our own country. Some of us, which were lucky enough to save our lives, also migrated to the US, and some of them are right here in this audience. We were lucky to escape the genocide that was committed against us, and we are here today enjoying the three freedoms that every human being should have. We are in a situation where we want to make sure that everybody understands that this is not just a commemoration of something that happened 33 years back. This fire is still alive. In fact, it has spread to other parts of the country. And it's raging in Rajasthan, it's raging in West Bengal, it's raging in Kerala, and in so many states. All the states of India have been engulfed in it. So we want to kind of bring this to everybody's attention, that this is not a commemoration of something that happened 33 years back. This is a fire that's still burning. It has engulfed our countries, and we need to just accept that this is a fact of life, and we have to do something about it. As Sanjay ji said, figure out ways to stop the spread of this fire. At this time, I would like to introduce Archana Kopluji, who's the president of Kashmiri Overseas Association. But before that, I would also like to introduce one of the very affected people, and that is Mr. Trakru, who's right here in our audience. And he's the brother-in-law of Pandit Tikalal Kapluji, who was massacred and assassinated in broad daylight. Our deepest sympathies to you, Mr. Trakru, and his daughter is also here, to you and your family for the greatest loss that your family has experienced. I would also like to introduce. I would now like to play a video clip of the Kashmiri Hindu genocide. And I would request somebody to turn down the lights, please, here, so that we can all see the video properly.
We can see.
It's okay.
One more.
According to Hindu mythology, Lord Krishna was created out of the river as a Kashyap Rishi. For a long time, it was known as Kashyap Moor, which means the place of Kashyap. This had later evolved into the word Kashmir. Kashmir This period is the sum of 350,000 Kashmir provinces, who were the originals of Kashmir. It is stated in the Indian national flag, were, and still are, true secularists, claiming to be humanity. The descendants of a culture which is more than 5,000 years old. 100% educated community. One prime morning of the 19th of January 1990, asked to leave their home in Kashmir. An organization was made in all the mosques, after which thousands of Kashmiri Muslims came out onto the streets, burned the houses belonging to Pandits, the great family. In short, total anarchy. The act was orchestrated by Pakistan, but it has never brought to power. Our rhetoric fueled vengeance and hatred, which left the valley in flames. The Arab Rain started back in 1989, when terrorists started with selective killings of Kashmiri Pandit leaders. They first killed advocate Diwas, followed by Justice Mohan Wanchoo, advocate Balidan, and Summer Free. All of them leaders of the Kashmiri Pandit community. वो ये काउंसिल की प्रतीक को उठाया वो इनको चाकू लगाया ये लाइफ भी खत्म हो गया लाइफ was pierced into my eyes I lost my eyesight then they went so hard and went down and cut it with scissors and then they threw me on the streets youths were kidnapped, tortured. Their mutilated corpses thrown onto the streets. My brother was called by some people. He went out. They started beating him. He screamed, shouted. But everyone shut their doors. He was shot by them. Bullets were fired at him. 4 in his car. And the rest on his head. The youngsters were picked up from their houses and strangulated with steel wires. We Many were hanged naked on trees. Some were even burnt alive. Others branded with hot irons.
In the last of Balidan, there was a full-page advertisement in the local newspaper, classified. He asked Shri Pandit to leave Kashmir within 2 days. Otherwise, he will kill you.
To save their liberty and their lives, these 350,000 Kashmiri Pandits had to flee their homeland, leaving behind everything they had. Integrating into the wheat of the rest of India. The Pandits thought it would be a temporary phase. Things would get better.
My husband's hands were tied from behind and he was hanging on a tree, leaving him to die. One person came to my house and told my mother that somebody's calling you outside. When she went out, she saw my father's dead body.
50,000 Kashmiri Pandits are still languishing in camps. What a shame.
After getting a glimpse of what really happened in 1991, I would like Mr. Thakru to come on stage and say a few words. I know it's a very difficult thing for him, but he's Mr. Pikalal Thakru's brother-in-law, and we would like to hear. Say a few words.
I don't know where to start. There are so many things to talk about. And I spent some time writing things down and I made me realize going in a wrong way. I just wanted to talk about the personal experience I had as a human being. And I will start with first thanking all of you for being here, as in the sacrifices that we made and the other people, all of the martyrs. And I would like to share a few small things with you. And this was my elder brother-in-law, so we used to sit in Diwas restaurant for tea. No such art stuff. And one day I just asked him, Lala, why do you used to call him Lala? Lala, why do you chose to go to illegal? He did his LLB from illegal. So, and his answer was, I am not Seva. Call themselves Sevas. And my job is to make everybody understand that we are not anti-Muslim or we are not anti-anybody in the religion. We want everybody to feel like they belong to India. We are all Indians. So my job here was to simply not only to get my degree, but to make sure that I can influence all those people. And we want these Muslim community to come and join us for our political purpose. You see, but have we been successful so far? You see, we are trying. We can only try. So I think we can only keep on trying for this. That was one incident. And another big question I had for him was when when I was young, I used to think of myself as being very smart, well read. I used to read most of the time. I used to read English authors. Most of the authors mostly, and some American authors, mostly famous and stuff like that. So I asked him, I said, Lalaji, they were supposed to be unfortunately, I didn't stick to this. Let me read from this one. It's not 100% well written, but I was a young man, and like most of my generation, enamored with reading books by mostly European authors, with a spectrum of Indian authors. I considered myself quite intelligent and well-read person. In this context, one day, enjoying a 4 p.m. tea at Kailash restaurant that served samosa, pakoda, and many other delicacies, that Papaji, and we lovingly called him Papa, would frequent in old Mirapada. I told him that I thought of RSS as an extremist which wanted India to revert back to ancient glory days, while modern times demanded that we move forward, looking more in science and technology to guide us forward like the Western world. I was very much influenced by Nehru's writings, especially about his books. And his answer to this was in his very humorous, casual way. Was it all of us have been, all of us have been brainwashed by the British scholars? All of us living in India had to find our books for that. He asked me what books I read, and I told him Diwas, Balidan, Shri, Freemason, etc. We're very proud of the foreign authors. He asked me in his usual loving, nonchalant manner to start reading Indian masters and foreign authors as maximum authors, which I did not do for a long time. I thought it was all crazy stuff. Mishidas, Vedas, etc., we have no understanding of religious culture. He was always getting arrested and jailed. Whenever there was an anti-Hindu or anti-Indian statements made by the National Conference functionary, he was the first with a few of his chosen Swayamsevaks. This was a group of very conscious, very straightforward people to raise the issue at altar. These small demonstrations led him to being arrested and jailed frequently. He was a special guest at the central jail. 2 or 3 times I brought his mother, because his mother, she was not feeling well, so I brought him to this jail. And my wife Sheila, we started to see him in jail. His simplest words, like when we went there, he felt like as if nothing is happened. It was just as if he was living in a hotel someplace. On one particular trip in the jail, his mother was feeling extremely sad. Nana was extremely sad. He was in the jail for 9 or 10 days. Because she felt she will get food, will get in sleep or so. Anyway, he was looking at, he felt the sadness of his mother, and as he was looking at her, he asked, should I apologize? Mother, if I apologize, I will be released from jail just now. You tell me, I will do it. His mother said, you don't have to do that. These are mother's words. If it is not right, then don't do it. Whatever you believe in, you should follow. If you believe in Bharat Mata, which you do, then you don't need to apologize for doing the right thing. didn't see religion. He saw what was right from wrong. He was a humanitarian. Religion was not what he was for. I have personal knowledge of one of their neighbors who was a tailor in the neighborhood. He was so helpful. He was there, a tailor master in the neighborhood. And his son was going to school with his children. And after matriculation, his father wanted him to learn tailor. After he finished his class, Lala asked his neighbor and tailor that he will finance his education, his child's education, but he should send him to college. This kid name was Balidan, who later went to Pakistan and returned as a full-fledged terrorist. I don't know how much hand he had in targeting him and many others, but finally he is the person who bought their property was sold, and he is the person who right now lives in it. He prepared, practiced yoga, prayed, and he went to the temple nearly every day. That was about him. And about myself, I would say that this tragedy we have faced is not a small thing. Most of us may not know it, but a lot of people are paying a lot of price. It's a mental issue, creates a lot of stresses in the family. I hope all of us remember that these victims, it's not only just the person who got killed or who got martyred and stuff. Their close families, their children, their wives, maternal side, their paternal side. Everybody is suffering. And it creates a lot of stress. So I hope we can do our best, make sure that we remember their sacrifices and continue further. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Prabhu, for sharing your thoughts with us. I know it's a very difficult thing for you and your family, but our condolences to you and your family of all that you've gone through. I would now like to introduce our fearless leader, Dr. Archana Kopru, that you all know about. So no matter what introduction I give of her, will always be deficient, but let me try. Dr. Kopru holds many feathers to her cap, apart from being a full-time physician. Dr. Kopru is the president of Kashmiri Overseas Association for the past 2 years, having been dedicated to community work at KOA for over 2 decades. Her major efforts have been all along focused on programs and initiatives to get our minuscule Kashmiri Hindu community more well-knit by preserving the cultural heritage, as well as supporting various welfare and medical programs to uplift the underprivileged sections of our community in India. The COVID crisis last year in India truly exemplified her leadership and resilience against odds. She brought together various global community organizations towards the single objective of getting the patients in various cities across India that timely needed help. Dr. Kopru has led several community protests, voiced her opinion at the Washington, D.C. Congressional Conference, and held numerous in-person and virtual global condemnation events on the innocent killings in Kashmir, urging for immediate action to alleviate the plight of the Kashmiris in general. Now I request Dr. Archana Kopru to kindly say a few words on this somber day.
Thank you, Mohanji. That was far too generous of you, and knowing you as the most kind person, I can only expect that you would be kind to everyone. Thank you so much. But having said that, all of us here who have origin in Kashmir are doing their best in whichever way to either make the people aware or commit their time in anywhere they can and further the cause, a cause which has been pretty much forgotten by the mainstream, by our politicians. So we are left our own devices, whichever they are, to make sure the world hears us. So here we are today, again commemorating, this will be the 33rd year. And on January 19th, it will be our 33rd year of the forced exodus and exile from our beloved motherland. And I am joined here by so many people here that I see in the audience who are doing so much more, just for the same reason, making sure that the torch is kept alive and we keep the fight alive. 1,500 people and counting have been killed by the terrorists, by the jihad. Started much before 1989, September 14, but we marked this day because Diwas was a man who stood tall in our community. He was a fearless man. And he, as you just heard, was not afraid of voicing his concerns. In a place where raising pro-India slogans was a death sentence, as you can imagine, and he did that. After September 14th, 1989, there have been literally 1,500 and plus killings. And the exodus, the exile or expulsion, whichever way we call our, forced, fleeing from our homeland, there were massacres, mass massacres, which happened 1997, 98, 2000, the Vadham massacre, the Sangrampura massacre, Chhattisgarh massacre, and it continued. Until recently, I'm sure that you are familiar with the Pulwama attacks, when our armed forces were targeted and 40 of them died, were killed basically on January, I think it was 15th or 14th when they were targeted. Not much has changed. It may be a mass murder, or it may be killing of just one helpless Hindu from any part of India who dares go back to the valley. Whether it is our PM package employees who, for the sake of a livelihood, were given promises that you can go back and everything will be secure, but we have had so many deaths, so many murders being committed from those people. The recent one this year was Rahul Bhatt. Other folks from India who are given assurance that everything is hunky-dory in Kashmir and the valley, and the visitors are coming, and multiple yatras, this and that, tulip gardens are full, places of shopping are full with visitors, so they get assured, they get probably lulled into kind of a situation where they think that it's secure and safe. They go there and then they get killed. A person from Bihar gets killed and other places. So the problem is that on one hand, we give the perception to the outside world that everything is fine in Kashmir. On the other hand, we Kashmiris know that we cannot go back home. We have tried, but we cannot live there. There's writing on the wall, even now today, 33 years after, that if we go and dare live in our own homes, we will be killed. There is no place for us. Aborigines of Kashmir, 5,000 years. Until 1300s, Kashmir was 100% Hindu land. Today, there are only about probably 200, 300, 400 families living under security. Just recently, when Rahul Bhatt was killed, families who had not left Kashmir in 1990, who had decided for whatever reasons to stay back, and lived there almost as hostages, they are packing. They're packing their bags and coming to Jammu. And those of the people who are pretty much forced to live there under conditions of their employment are living in security. So that you can understand what Kashmiri Pandits and Kashmiri Hindus are doing in Kashmir Valley. There is no place for Kashmiri Hindus to live in Kashmir. So if we don't raise our voices, we already know that we have been pretty much brushed under the rug by whoever. We don't want to put the blame, but there have been literally, governments have changed, prime ministers have changed, everything has changed, but the policy in Kashmir and Kashmir Pandit has not changed. So we basically have to take this fight to the world ourselves. And we have one of the best persons to talk about what we should do in future, so that the narrative which has been created in the world, and we all know that in this country, it is hard for Hindus to come in front without being attacked. And like we already said, that this is not an isolated incident in Kashmir. This is happening everywhere in India. So the person here, Sushil Pandit ji, needs no introduction. We're honored to have him here. He has been on a mission in US at least for 1 month now. Before that, he was in the United Kingdoms, and he's on a mission, and the mission he will talk about, but he wants to unite all of us together, all the Hindus, and raise one voice. And that one voice will start on January 19th, 2023. Please give a round of applause to Mr. Shilji, who's an activist, practice historian, and the face of Kashmiri Pandits everywhere in the world. It is our pleasure to welcome him. Thank you, Sushil.
Thank you so much for those generous words. Thanks a lot for putting this event together. And I'm grateful to all of you for your presence here. After a long working day and a tiring drive to arrive, spend time. It's not easy. We commemorate this Balidan Diwas every year, and this is the 33rd year. What happened on this day in 1989 was the first killing of the most prominent Kashmiri Hindu in the valley. So we pick this up as a symbolic day for all the martyrs who lost their lives. They were all unarmed, non-combatants, innocent. Just as 19th of January is a symbolic day for our expulsion, our mass expulsion from Kashmir, by no means that was the only day when we left. Our exodus, our expulsion began much earlier. And it continued through the 90s. It never stopped. Sometimes it got reduced to a trickle, sometimes it was in large numbers. As we talk, it is still happening. What is there to remember about? What is there to remember about? 33 years, year after year. Because this happened in this day and age. I'll give you a small parallel. More than 9 years later, when Yugoslavia was breaking apart, Kosovo, which has an ethnic Serbian population but of Muslim persuasion, and was seeking to break Serbia into a separate Kosovo, a separate nation. Serbians wouldn't allow that, because Serbia had already suffered a breakup of Yugoslavia, with Croatia going elsewhere and Herzegovina, Bosnia going somewhere else. And Serbians decided to force Kosovo Serbians, Muslim Serbians, to give up their separatism by expelling them from Kosovo. All right? And you know how the world responded? The NATO fighter jets took off from their bases in Italy, and from 20th of March till 10th of April 1999, 20 days of incessant bombing on the Serbian civilian areas, civilian population, in order to subdue them and let the Kosovo separatists succeed. And that population of Kosovo was not even half of our population of Kashmir. The fact that we mourn the death of our martyrs, represented today by Dikalalji, is one thing. But what pains us more is not just that we lost these precious lives, that our mothers and sisters were brutalized, that names like Sarala Ganju, Sarala Bhatt, Girja Tikku, Rana Ganju, Sarvanand Paul Premnath Bhatt, they were not even known or talked about for several years. What pains us more is that till date it remains unacknowledged that this was a genocide is still begging acknowledgement from our system, from our successive governments. We are still dubbed as migrants. There can't be a bigger travesty. We, the victims of and survivors of a genocide, no less, are dubbed as migrants. And what happens in Kashmir is called alienation, is called separatism, is called perhaps lack of opportunity and education. There are all kinds of rationalizations and euphemisms invented, so that you don't have to call it by its real name, which is jihad. Government of India has not acknowledged till date that what happens in Kashmir is jihad. That Lashkar-e-Taiba or Jaish-e-Mohammed or Hizbul Mujahideen are waging a jihad against India in Kashmir. And they are coordinated in Muzaffarabad by a body called United Jihad Council. And those who fight this call themselves Mujahideen. They admit to it that we are waging jihad. They call themselves Mujahideen, but we give them separate nomenclature because it doesn't suit us to identify by their real name. Our secularism is in jeopardy. That is the level of perversion in our discourse and in our policy, that we do not acknowledge the problem in Kashmir by its real name. That this problem occurred, this calamity occurred 33 years back is a separate issue. It was a genocide indeed. It meets all the covenants of United Nations Declaration of 1949 as to what constitutes genocide. There is no doubt about it. The only prerequisite that it doesn't meet is that when the young children of the affected community are taken away from them, so that their next generation is in jeopardy in order to finish them off. That mercifully didn't happen to us in large scale, but every other prerequisite is met, and all you need is meet just one prerequisite, not all of them. But nobody wants to acknowledge this genocide. We are called migrants. You saw those tattered tents in this film made by an illustrious son of our community, Sushil Pandit, who in 1989 and in 1990, from Mumbai with a shoulder-held camera, all alone ventured back into Srinagar, shot those films, shot those scenes, moved among the crowd, and then went to Jammu and shot these images. He was the first one to capture the truth on camera. Guess what? We still have a refugee camp. It is made of concrete. It is of Jammu in Jagati. There are several more, but the largest refugee camp, where more than 4,500 families, and if you take an average of more than 5 to a family, more than 20,000 men, women, and children are rotting with no future in sight. It's called a migrant camp. In 2018, we put an RTI to this government, and the Home Ministry was asked, do you have a policy or a proposal for the reversal of this genocide and rehabilitation of these expelled Hindus? We got an answer in writing, no, there is no policy and there is no proposal under consideration. In 2018, it was already 28 years. We're not a priority. So we don't get an acknowledgement. We don't even get a decision about us. We're hanging in limbo, we just don't know. So as if a genocide wasn't enough, this indifference, this apathy, this reluctance to recognize this as a genocide is a bigger calamity, because a genocide denied is a genocide repeated many times over. You are telling the victims what happened to you was perhaps just wages. What happened to you, you had it coming. But it doesn't matter. This is far, far bigger, right? You try denying the Jewish Holocaust and see the music. The system comes after you like a ton of bricks. There's a hue and cry all over the world. But who do we blame? Our own system, our own successive governments do not want to acknowledge it. The lack of acknowledgement, let me tell you, since 1990, we've had 9 prime ministers. We have had more than a dozen home ministers. I'm talking about the central government. Not one, not even one as an exception has visited our refugee camps. I've been saying this for a long time. So one gentleman once spoke up and said, no, but Mr. Mohan Singh came to Jagti once, and I had to remind him that Mr. Mohan Singh came to Jagti to cut a ribbon, inaugurate a refugee camp. Can you imagine the shame? You make a ceremony of inaugurating a refugee camp, and you still don't meet any refugees. You just cut a ribbon to a block of cement and concrete and go away. And you call it visiting a refugee camp. This is the apathy and cruelty of the state and the system we live under. There is no acknowledgement that we exist. Forget the acknowledgement of the genocide that is perpetuated on us. Not one genocidal crime. We're talking about victims, murders, massacres. Archana ji mentioned about Wandhama, about Nadimar, about Sangrampura, about Jagasinghpura, about targeted killings that are continuing to happen. None of these heinous crimes have been prosecuted. Not even one, as an exception. Not even one. Nobody has been punished. Most of these murderers were roaming free most of their lives. If you and I apply for a passport, we are asked, do you have a criminal record? They were delivered their passports at home. They were funded hundreds of crores every year for their travels, for their hotel bills, for the fuel in their vehicles, for their security, and indeed for their treatment in best of the hospitals. And all this is audited, accounted for expenditure. Forget the unaccounted for expenditure, which I'm sure is many times more. This is how Indian state has dealt with those who committed this genocide. I've just told you how it dealt with those who were victims of this genocide. It was bizarre for us to see people soaked in our blood from top to bottom, received by prime ministers in their houses, offered civil society platforms, giving interviews on TV channels, writing articles, masquerading as victims in Kashmir, victims of Indian atrocities. And their stories were not up. They traveled the world on Indian taxpayers' money. They were even allowed to go to Pakistan and get married there and come home and raise families. And we saw all this happen, even as we were awaiting acknowledgement for great justice. So there is no acknowledgement, there is no justice, there is no policy or proposal on our reversal. What do we do? Where do we go from there? I have a friend sitting in the audience. He said, I took an initiative to talk to a lawyer. Can we move International Court of Justice? I've been asked this question. Why don't we do that? And I sometimes feel we were shunted out of Kashmir, thrown out of Kashmir for our patriotism. We didn't compromise on our allegiance to the flag. If we had, we could have happily lived there, let me tell you. If we had compromised on our faith, if we had compromised on our patriotism, if we had joined that cabal raising anti-India slogans and burning Indian tricolor, we would have survived there without losing our homes and jobs, without getting killed. The reason why we were thrown out is because we didn't let that happen. And today, if you were to drag our beloved country to the embarrassment of having to defend its record across the world, we'll have to think several times over before we actually get out to doing it. We may still not have the heart to do it. But nobody should take advantage of this sentiment. What we feel is that advantage is going to be taken out. we've been able to raise awareness in the country about this issue, about Kashmir issue, about Kashmiri genocide, about the plight of Kashmiri Hindus. And what we have achieved, and we achieved this in the last 10-15 years, that whenever such a thing is seen brewing in any other part of the country, and there are more than 65 districts where Hindu population has dwindled to a very small minority. You know what they say? They say, "Yahan ek aur Kashmir ban raha." We have Kashmir-like situation. In Kerala, they say we have another Kashmir waiting to happen. In Bengal, they say it is Kashmir. Come look at it. In Aligarh, Khagaria, in Purnia, in Kishanganj, in Malda, in Chowbish Pargana, in Murshidabad. They say we have a Kashmir ready here. Come look at it. So the awareness of what happened in Kashmir to the Hindus is now widespread. We may be very small number and unable to change the electoral fortunes of political parties and political leaders. But our issue is far bigger than us. And today, governments, leaders, policy establishments are held to this litmus test. What have you done about Kashmir? What have you done about Kashmiri Hindus? How many families have gone back? It is this question that haunts them day in and day out. And it is this pressure which has led to governments invent a strategy. How to skirt this issue, get to the path of least resistance, and get rid of this monkey on the back as to what have we done about Kashmir. And what have they done? They say, okay, let us create some 5,000-6,000 jobs. Which is what? Which is taking advantage of the economic destitution of some of our youth. And also their emotional gut, they want to go back to Kashmir. Somehow, we've been out far too long. So combination of this emotional tug and this economic destitution, they fall for this jobs. And then they're taken to Kashmir on very discriminatory terms. Imagine working for the same government, doing the same job as your fellow colleague on the desk by your side, but being held to a completely different regimen, completely different terms and conditions. You can't ask for a transfer. You can't ask for a pension. No grounds, family, medical, are good enough to seek some kind of a redressal. It's like a bondage inflicted on you. Even at the risk of your life, you cannot seek any change in this bond. And you're subjected to these employment conditions in Kashmir. Even if you have a house there, you can't live in that house. So what you're forced to do is live in a barbed wire camp of porta cabins. Like some kind of animals on the verge of extinction kept in a reservation. And then you're ferried to your place of work and brought back. And still, that's no guarantee for your security. You are killed working in your office. You're killed on your way to the office. You're killed in the marketplaces. You're safe nowhere. But it gives our system a handle to tell the world, see, Kashmiri Pandits are coming back, they're working now in the valley. So many thousand jobs have been given to them. And if they can come and work in the valley, why not others? We can't force everyone to come and start living there if they have found more more comfortable, more rewarding opportunities elsewhere. So what is done is done. Issue is over. And almost as much was alluded just last year by a minister in this government called Meenakshi in an online program when she was asked, when are we finally going to be moved to Kashmir, be Kashmiri Hindus? Her response was very matter of fact. She said, listen, we have seen thousands of migrant workers traveling hundreds of kilometers on foot to reach their home when they wanted to. Nothing came in the way. You can also go. So what stops you from going home? Kashmir is there. There are buses, there are trains, there are flights, go home. Can you imagine saying this without batting an eyelid? Comparing us with migrant laborers fleeing to homes because of COVID. But that is the level of insensitivity we should have gotten used to by now. If we don't, it is because probably we still have some hope and expectation left from our system. We have not entirely given up. But this is the status. We believe that narrative is extremely critical for any policy decision. Any political establishment, any government, any leadership must have, thank you so much, must have a softer, favorable ground to make some decisions that it must in any case. It is the duty of these governments, but they always look for survival, look for approval, look for validation. They won't do anything of this sort themselves. I was telling Dr. Kapoor, you've been driving me around for so many days. This morning, she was handling a critical patient, referring him to the cardiologist because he was serious. On the phone, spent an hour trying to coordinate with the family, the patient, and the cardiologist who's going to look after him. And at the same time, planning the journey here. Yesterday, from morning till late night, we landed back at past midnight. From one event to the other. I said, this should have been the task of Government of India, our consulate, our embassy. What are we doing? We are creating a narrative. We are giving information. We are giving facts and data to the land where academia, media, policy bonds, thought leaders, all of us are convinced that India is a Hindu fascist state. And it is the minorities who are suffering. Right? Dismantling Hindutva is the priority. And you know how much ISI in Pakistan spends trying to peddle that narrative. And what does our state do? Nothing. They didn't do anything in India for that narrative. Finally, a film came earlier this year. That film was an assurance by the director 3 years ago when a hue and cry broke out over a non-film trying to pretend that this was the untold story of Kashmiri Hindus, where it turned the genocide into some kind of a honeymoon. When the community raged, and we said, you cannot trifle with such a colossal tragedy for some commercial interest. You can keep showing romance for all we care, but don't use us and our victims as a prop in your business enterprise. Have some sensitivity. That is when Vivek Agnihotri stood up and said, don't worry, I'm going to make a film. Without any compromises. Crowdfunded happened. He traveled across the world, took interviews of the victims, put together a film. With all its warts and people may find some kind of deficiencies in it, it does the job of telling the world what happened. First acknowledgement. I was just telling a friend, Ashok Ji sitting here, Ashok, yes, where are you? Sorry. Right here. I was telling him, he said people didn't realize till such time they saw the film, they got to know for the first time. I said, yes, but those who knew, those who actually suffered, those who knew a lot more than what film was showing also went to see the film. Because they were looking for vindication and acknowledgement. They didn't need the film to tell them what happened to them. This vindication, this acknowledgement is not coming from our state, not coming from our policy establishment. Forget the enemy. They will never acknowledge it. They will always question it. But our friends are reluctant to stand by us. And they feel the best they can do is to make that film tax free. Sorry. We deserve better. First and foremost, and I don't think you can even begin to address this issue unless you acknowledge on the ground what happened. That's the first and foremost precondition. The second, justice. Victims and survivors are awaiting justice for the last 33 years. Of all the institutions, our Supreme Court has failed us. In 2017, Roots in Kashmir, that I represent here as one of its founders, went to the Supreme Court of India. In June, Chief Justice J.S. Kehar, in a bench comprising Justice Chandrachud, flung that petition away without even admitting it. Forget arguments on it. Said it will serve no purpose. It's 27 years too late. Then we were told, wait, another Chief Justice is coming. His name is Deepak Mishra. He's a nationalist Chief Justice in the making. And he will do justice. We filed a review petition. The time is within 6 months, and we did that. But it did not get any result. Justice Deepak Mishra, Justice J.S. Kehar, both Chief Justices failed us, along with Justice Chandrachud, who is going to be the Chief Justice very soon, following the current Chief Justice. Can you imagine the hypocrisy? They knew fully well that we were knocking at the last door we could for seeking justice. Thereafter, we had no options there. That didn't persuade them. And as if that wasn't enough, recently, another petition has been tossed back saying, go to the government. Don't come here. What they are in effect saying is, go to the same government which is dragging its feet on prosecuting self-admitted, self-confessed killers. Yasin Malik has on a TV interview, live interview with Tim Sebastian on Hard Talk, admitted that he killed Air Force officers, including squad leader Ravi Khanna. That all the victims in 89 and 90 were legit targets because of freedom struggle. They represented the state of India or its agents. This man is in jail and is touted as one of the achievements of delivering justice. But let me tell you what kind of a justice this is. He was accused of money laundering terror funding and belonging to an organization that was out to break India, which is JK. These were the charges. Money laundering is a white collar charge. Terror funding is a criminal charge. Now, what happens is very interesting. This 2016 crime, charge sheeted in 2022, is promptly admitted by the accused Yasin Malik. And the court decides that, see, since the charges were made and they were promptly, accepted by someone who was accused, so there is no point for arguments also, and promptly sentences him to life in prison. Someone who should have been hanged at least 10 times for the crimes that he's committed. Metaphorically speaking, because you can't hang someone 10 times. But that's the severity of his crime. Gets away with it. Just as Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani got away with it, sleeping in his bed comfortably, lived up to 90s, funded and looked after by government. I was most inconsolable when he died because he didn't face the consequences of his actions. If this is justice, then there couldn't be a bigger mockery of what we are expecting from our system. I believe we need to raise the pitch of our narrative to strengthen the system to do what is necessary. In India, we've been able to do this, and our governments, as I said, are being held accountable to a higher standard. So they may try and wiggle and avoid and delay, but sooner or later they'll have to do. But perhaps they won't do till such time the global opinion also changes favorably. Because today, even a big squeak of a Qatar can bring us on our knees. As I said, in the Western establishment, India is seen very differently. Today, I saw a resolution in New Jersey which wanted the offshoots of Hindu supremacy organizations in America be curbed. These resolutions were passed in the Democratic Party committee, which means there is a legitimacy to it, in the ruling party in America. So what we've decided is that we are done with our somber little gatherings on every 19th of January. Wherever we are, we come together in small numbers like we do on a Martyrs' Day, remind each other of what happened, and then go away. This time, we will raise the pitch to a global level. We will have a global conference. And we're going to tweak this issue a little. And not because it's a tactical advantage, but this is a fact, and I'll tell you how. For years, we were told we were Kashmiri Pandits, and we started calling ourselves Kashmiri Pandits. It's not a nomenclature that we gave to ourselves, no. Kashmiri Pandits were identified as Kashmiri Pandits in the northern plain of India when we were expelled in successive exoduses through the medieval times. So the brand stuck to us. We don't even call ourselves Hindus, in Kashmiri language. The nomenclature we give ourselves is Bhatt, not Hindus. We are Bhatt, and the other community is Muslim. That's what we call ourselves. We don't call ourselves Kashmiri Pandit. I mean, it's not logical. We are all Kashmiris. We call each other Kashmiri Pandit. That's a given. So it's the non-Kashmiris who call ourselves Kashmiri Pandit. But we were told, listen, you are today treading in a country which is caste hypersensitive. And Pandits, top of the caste hierarchy in any case face a lot of hostility. So fight down. And in the interest of larger Hindu unity, call yourself Kashmiri Hindus. Because I would, often get questioned, but why don't you talk about other Kashmiri Hindus? Why do you keep calling yourself Kashmiri Pandit and Diwas? Try telling them that there were no other castes of Hindus left in Kashmir. Even Kashmiri Pandits in large numbers were converted. So Kashmiri Pandit and Kashmiri Hindu is coterminous, means the same thing, but for the sake of clarity and tactical advantage, let's call ourselves Kashmiri Hindu. But now I feel Kashmiri Hindu genocide makes it like a standalone event. That this happened in Kashmir 32 years back and we have to fight for that cause. Come to think of it, this is the latest in the series of genocides that have been taking place through the centuries. The first of its kind was in 712 when Muhammad bin Qasim set foot in Sindh. What happened to the Hindus of Sindh is no different to what happened to us Hindus in Kashmir. What happened to Hindus of Balochistan is not much different. Today you can't find a solitary Hindu in Afghanistan. Today, the Hindu demography in Pakistan has collapsed. We were 21% in 1951 census of Pakistan, in West Pakistan. Today we are less than 1.5%. If this is not genocide, what is? In Bangladesh, we were more than 31% in 1951 census. We are less than 8%. And I keep reminding people who care to listen that Google, there is a demographer teaching in Dhaka University who says every day 600 Bengali Hindus disappear. And if this continues at this rate by 2050, Bangladesh will be bereft of Hindus. So what is happening to the Hindus in Bangladesh and Hindus in Pakistan is no different from what happened to Kashmiri Hindus in Kashmir. What Taimur did to us, what Mahmud Ghazni did to us, what Muhammad Ghori did to us, what Lodi and Sher Shah Suri did to us, what Tughlaq and Iltutmish did to us, what Aurangzeb did to us, what Nadir Shah did to us, and what even colonialists did to us in 200 years through a series of famines and epidemics inflicted on us, is nothing but Hindu genocide. A conservative estimate is 400 million lives were lost in more than a millennium. And it is continuing. It is continuing even in independent India. It is continuing in this day and age despite the Declaration of Human Rights and Declaration of Genocide Covenants by United Nations. It needs acknowledgement. Today, CAIR, an Islamist organization whose president was jailed in this country, dares to call Hindus Hindu supremacists. And it goes unchallenged. We need to take this war of narratives to their turf globally. And we have resolved to do that. And we should do it together as Hindus, as Bengali Hindus, as Tamil Hindus, as Malayali Hindus, as Telugu Hindus, as Gujarati Hindus, as Marathi, UP Hindus, as Punjabi Hindus, as Sikhs, as Jains, as both. We all do it together because it is a shared tragedy. We are in the same boat. We have been hemorrhaging at different times and different intensities. The enemy is the same. And he doesn't treat us. The enemy doesn't treat us as Bengalis or Marathis or Gujaratis and therefore different treatment. No. For the enemy, we are Hindus. We may define ourselves as Brahmins or Kshatriyas or Dalits, as Punjabis or Assamese or Odias. To the enemy, we are Hindus. We are Kafirs. We are pagans. We are heathens. And we need to challenge this narrative. So this conference that we wish to organize on 19th of January is surviving 1,000 years of Hindu genocide. We, 1 billion of us, today call a halt to Hindu genocide. The call to action is stop killing Hindus. Stop killing Hindus in Bangladesh. Stop killing Hindus in Afghanistan. Stop killing Hindus in Pakistan. Stop killing Hindus in Sri Lanka. Stop killing Hindus in different parts of India. Stop it. Because 1 billion of us will not take it anymore. We'll put it up there from where it cannot be brushed aside, it cannot be denied, and it will have to be repressed. And I hope that strengthens our policy establishment to do the needful, to join this war of narratives. So far, only private citizens, spirited citizens with meager resources and bandwidth have been able to achieve whatever has been achieved so far. With people like Dr. Archana Babru, our able leader in America. Mohan Wanchoo, where are you? Sorry. I mean, these are public spirited individuals with extremely busy professional lives and commitments to their patients and commitment to their work. They are trying to find time to do this when those who are paid to do this are missing from this action. So let's get together and get these things done. Thank you so much for your turnout here. Things that I should have. Please forgive me. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, Sushil ji. And as you can now understand is that the mission for us is much bigger than all of us. We need everyone to be a part of it because
I just wanted to elaborate what this conference is going to be like. The idea is to be truly global. We don't need to just pick up one global city and let everyone travel there and get some high-profile speaker, hear him, clap, go back. For it to be truly global, it needs to have an echo from every corner, every region of the world. So as the sun moves, we will move from Sydney to Singapore, to Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, to Dubai, Brussels, London, then New York, here, this city, the biggest global city, Toronto, to Chicago, and then to California, one of the cities, maybe LA or San Francisco, Chancellor, San Francisco. And each city will get 90 minutes. And they'll be digitally connected with giant screens, local communities, all Hindus will gather. And they will watch what's happening in other 10 cities, 12 cities. It will all be pivoted at the largest concentration of Hindu refugees, which is Germany. That will be the pivot of this conference. Former prime ministers, former presidents, authors, cultural icons, filmmakers, intellectuals, and they will raise the pitch for us and put it up there. So idea is to get the likes of Steven Spielberg, who's done a film on genocide himself, whose community, he represents a community that has suffered the biggest Holocaust of the previous century. Someone like David Cameron, who's been the former Prime Minister in London, Stephen Harper, former Prime Minister in Canada. Sukmavati Sukarnoputri, she represents the native Hindus of Southeast Asia. She might talk to us in Singapore. Tony Abbott or Scott Morrison in Australia, both of former Prime Ministers. And in India, if I'm lucky, if all of us, our wish is granted, I would love to have Ratan Tata speak to us
Yes.
He represents Zoroastrians, a community who faced this genocide much before Hindus started facing this genocide. Yes. I would love to have Harish Salve, who is the most prominent lawyer globally recognized from India. We are trying to avoid politicians in office for their reasons of, protocol, call it sensitivity, or for trying to make it, avoiding trying to make it partisan, political. So please pitch in with whatever help you can. I hand you back to Arjuna.
Clarification if you've done that. Otherwise, I have to do it. But anyway, now that we know that what the mission of this conference is going to be, it is my ask, my request from all of you here that you be a part of it in whichever capacity. Some of you can do a lot, and some of us can do a little. But in whichever way we can, little, big, we need to be a part of this so that the world knows we exist. Kashmiri Hindus exist. We survived, but our job is not done. We have duties. We have duties towards our ancestors, our mothers here, and our children. If we don't do this, if our generation doesn't do it, then no one's going to do it. So please, join us in this mission. Make sure that whatever you can do in whichever capacity, we want to raise the awareness. The movie, The Kashmir Files, already opened up the minds of public here. I know that because I get questions every day. People who did not know about our story now do. We have to take forward. We cannot let this awareness or interest wane away. It is our duty. Now, I am going to call in to speak just for a little while, Mr. Vibhuti Jha, who everyone knows does not need any introduction. He is originally from Bihar, but has made a name for himself in this land of opportunity. He is a financial guru, but now he is running for the New York State Assembly, and he is going to be a force for us. He's going to represent the interests of Indians and the Indian Hindus in the state of New York. So, Mr. Vibhuti Jha, a few words.
Thank you very much. This evening is not for me. It's not about me. Thank you for putting up with me. But I'm very happy about two things. Is the growing awareness of what has happened in Kashmir, to Kashmiri Hindus. And this collaboration of all Hindus all over the country is essential. And you said it very correctly, that by calling the Brahmins or Pandits of Kashmir being what they are, it became an isolation gameplay. Isolate them and let them suffer. It doesn't affect me. It has been a classic of Malay that we suffer from. Now, why I got into the desire to contest for election? Because I realized that we have no voice. We perpetually keep running from one pillar to post, trying to make our case. And nothing impressed me or made me desperate more than the battle that we fought with reference to the symbol swastika. That was the day of the Zoom meet. I don't know, many of you were there, when the senators, New York State senators and assemblymen confessed that we had no idea this symbol was so important to you. And I said that if you did not have an idea of what it means to us, you just had to Google, right? How can you declare a symbol as an element of hate if you do not know anything about it? And you were talking about the German Hacken cruise as swastika. Fortunately, with the great effort of lots of community leaders, this bill was dropped in New York State, but others are still trying.
The important part again here, I'm very happy about this global conference, you clarified it so well, is that it has to be the voice of everybody. It can't be the voice of only one. And Kashmir files, I was astonished that how many Indians didn't even know about. I had a friend from Kerala, and I'm saying this in jest. I gave him that answer in jest, not that I meant it. He said, let Kashmir go. Why don't we let it go? We will be peaceful after that. And I said, looking at the map of India, I would rather let you go. I would rather let you go. And both of us left after that. Because I'll keep you in the ocean, Indian Ocean there. And I will monitor you with our own ships, Navy. And you be out there. I'll keep Kashmir. That looks like the head of India. So that's the point which I'm trying to make. My reason of getting into politics, I'm a banker. I worked with Reserve Bank of India. I worked with American Express. I came in 1991 to promote India's liberalization story. So I very proudly say that I belong to a band of a few good men who brought India's liberalization story here. And that was a time, if most of you would know, India had literally no story to tell. Sunil knows that. We had no story to tell. And I was addressing CEOs of companies about virtues of investing in India, which was a very tough market, tough place, run by corrupt Congress people, and I've seen them operate. That's why I hate Congress party, that they are responsible for the country being where they are, where the country is. The point of the matter that I'm trying to say, I became a better Indian, a better Hindu, and a better human being after coming here, because then I realized there was so much beautiful about our country. The world doesn't know. I want to be that voice for all of us here. And that's why I plunged into it. Because I said, I don't like to sit by the sidelines crying, moaning, weeping. I'm the kind of person who says, if you believe in it, get into it. Here is a wonderful lady who is involved in teaching students. Each one needs to do something that you are good at. That's what you have to remember. Big or small doesn't matter. It's always the first baby step that takes one to the next big step. So the point of the matter here is that I want to be that voice. I don't want us to suffer, and I don't want any other community to suffer a partisanship that happens in politics. And I have said, somebody, Ashok asked me in the ITV show, who is Vibhuti Jha and what would you do differently? And I said, I do this 7-year exercise in my mind. I always do that, and that's serious. Who am I? What am I doing today? What next? That's the definition that I decided to form about nichod ke kehte hain na, Hindi ka shabd hai nichod ke dekha. Then I realized that Vibhuti Jha is a problem solver. And I believe one thing, that if you want to solve a problem, there is a solution. The solution emerged here, as Sushil said, is that global conference of Hindu genocide. This is important for us to do. I have a dear friend Rakesh ji, and he and I have talked many times on Kashmir issue, on my TV show, and we will continue to push the dialogue. The question is narrative. That's so very important. We have no narrative. We have no story to tell our own. Our stories are written by others. And we fall into slumber. We become lotus eaters. शतरंज के खिलाड़ी मुझे नहीं हो रहा है ना, किसी और को होता है. That's the part which I have often encountered this phrase that Hindus have no unity. And I have said this on my show, and I say it again to you. Unity is not something like a suit, jacket, shirt, sari, salwar, that you wear it and voila, unity came about. It doesn't happen like that. Unity is brought about by a cause. Just as in New York, the unity came behind the symbols of. If this particular ugly event in Kashmir doesn't unite us, what will? And I propose a 4-word solution to that. We need to indulge in what I call 3CM: collaborate, cooperate, and coordinate, and then mobilize in your individual capacity or collective capacity. This, what you are seeing here, is one such effort. This has to multiply individually and globally and collectively in every sense of the term. I'm fighting the election. I don't need to be in politics. And I'm don't want to become part of the politics in the last home for a scoundrel or some phrase like that. So I'm not a scoundrel either. But I'm stepping into that with eyes wide open that I will face a lot of opposition. And Rakeshji and other people, Sunil Ali, Ashokji know that I'm running this battle about changing the Indian Hindu narrative. Today we are targets. We are targets. Just imagine, I mean, we talk about CAIR. It's a banned organization by UAE and Saudi Arabia, which are the partners of America. Declared as a terrorist organization, but is a home and peaceful in this country, existing, monitoring, managing the narrative. And they are now accusing us of being terrorists and being violent, whereas one senator once told me that we love you Indians as immigrants to this country. You are educated, you are professional, you are hardworking, you are in the highest median income, you are not a law and order problem anywhere in the world, you have family values, you take care of your children, and then he broke the punchline, and you ask for nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to come to ask. And I invoke, I'm very proud about that invocation I bring from Swami Vivekananda, arise, awaken, and assert. There was never more opportune time to do that now, to which I very proudly, humbly, and boldly add my 4th A, act. Because arising, awaken, and asserting, if you do not act, nothing matters. Knowledge is not an end in itself. It has to be implemented. I can learn anything on Google today, but if I can't do anything about it, it doesn't matter. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your candidate. I'm not here to ask you for vote. I want you to support and spread the word around everywhere to your friends and community members that I'm your voice. Because if you do not vote on November 8th, it's a message to everyone. The Democratic Party, I don't know how any Indian can be a supporter of Democratic Party. It beats the hell out of them. When they have sold themselves too. I have said this to many Democrat friends of mine. How can you even support a party that is openly against you? So this is a time for us to awaken, create, and act. Take our voices to democratic leaders. Is this what we are meant for? Thank you very much for listening today. I'm very, very honored to be involved with this group. Mohan ji is a wonderful friend. Rakesh ji, it's so delight to be knowing you, the privilege to be knowing you. Came to know you after I landed in New York with our TV shows. And since then, we have become good friends. We relate, we connect, and we found a common cause. You may not agree with everything that Sushil ji says or does, but pick on what you agree with that. That's what I always tell people. You may not agree with what I say or do, but pick on something that I say that you like. Focus on that. As my father used to say, it's very easy to fight with somebody because you'll always find hundreds of reasons to fight with them. Find a good reason to be friends. And that's a good beginning. With these words, I say, support those whose work you like. If you don't like, don't criticize or run him down. Let him be. Let him be. Let him run with his own game. Success or failure will come to him or her, depending on what they want to do. Support, but do your own bit. That's very important. We all need to do individually and collectively. We all have to do our bit. Very much, and I'm definitely appealing to the youngsters. We are here, we may not be there tomorrow. You need to remember the beautiful word called astitva. You need to protect your astitva, your identity, being who you are. And for that, please listen to us. Some of us will know something more to share. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
All the time, maybe, why is it this has happened to us? I mean, maybe we have to go to the why. Why have we suffered and why have we failed in our own country? And then we go to that root cause and see where we can make a difference. I mean, I don't know what could be.
There is, in each one's life, there is a particular moment, there's a trigger point for us. I call it the trigger point. English phrase says, last straw comes back. When in my research and studies and trying to find things, I stumbled upon the 1941 census of India. Look it up. Look it up. 1941 census of India, you would be horrified me that there were just about 140,000 plus British in this country, plus women and children. And it bothered me so much that 140,000 plus British ruled us, using our resources, our people, controlled us, they chose our destiny, they split us as they wanted, they looted us as they will. They took actions in which millions died. How did we let it happen? That's because we had a Satrap mentality. That mentality, unko ho raha hai, hone do, mujhe kya raha. This has been the bane of our life in India. We generally are not engaged and involved with each other. Sharma ji ki takleef hai, unko hone diya, main aaram se baitha hu. Let me be, I'm peaceful. Halli saab ko तकलीफ है मुझे क्या फर्क पड़ता है वो पंजाबी में जो है ना मैंने की फर्क पैदा that's the killer for us. We ended up becoming, like the Kerala friend of mine told me, let the people what their lives. But we have to begin to assert and begin to ask. 1 minute more. There was a moment when I was asked by a senator in Los Angeles in 1992 Republic Day celebrations. We were sitting on the podium. And he says, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. Why don't you give Kashmir to Pakistan and Khalistan to Punjab, that particular portion of Punjab to Khalistan? You'll be free happily ever after. I said, yeah, I'm just thinking about it, that if all the blacks in this country assembled in Montana and declared it as their own country, would you let it happen? No way. I said, what about if Hawaii declares independence tomorrow, would you let it happen? He said, no. I said, what about Alaska? He said, no. I said, why the hell is your problem what happens in my country? We will deal with it. Why is it your problem about interfering in our affairs? If you won't let your country break, why would you recommend we break our country for happiness? Your happiness? No. That's the way I want to tell you this. That we have to begin to think as a united India, as a Hindu India. That moment to serve has come. Thank you very much. And let's go for the World Hindu Genocide.
So, the question answered.
I would thank you, Vibhuti. That really was very enlightening and good luck. And we wish you all the success. And of course, we hope that we will see you as the new.
Yeah, that will be the first Indian American Hindu.
The first Indian American Hindu who will be in the New York Assembly come November 6th.
Yes. November 8th is the election.
November 8th is the election. Please remember.
Sorry, are there any questions?
I also wanted you to add what he said from your point of view with specific Kashmir ambience, as you were asking.
Ashokji, I just want to ask Rakesh ji to speak a few words. And after Rakesh ji speaks for only a few minutes, I just wanted to first thank you for coming. And Rakesh ji is a community obviously leader. Everyone knows him. Everyone knows him in New York. And he's a mentor for all of us and a voice for all of us in this country. I would like you to speak a few words before Sushil ji takes the questions. No, you were not. That's why we always throw unexpected requests.
Because Rakesh thrives
Rakesh,
in that.
you don't need
He
it.
thrives in that.
So I'll just make a couple of points. First, Bhuti, I am definitely meeting you next week, and I'm going to contribute to your campaign, and I'll ask everyone if there's one thing that comes out of this meeting, contribute to Bhuti's campaign. And why is that? Because my dear friend Sushil Pandit talked about the shyness that the Indian state feels in calling what's gone on in Kashmir with the right word. And there's a funny story that started in this very soil. So in New York State, they passed a resolution supporting Kashmir Day. And I was horrified, so I called up my New York friends, and we went to this congressman, and said, "Sir, do you know this Kashmir Day in Pakistan, when they started it, it was called Jihad Day." And they came to America, they realized that we not sell with people like you. So they quickly changed Jihad Day to Kashmir Day. And you don't have to listen to us biased Hindus. New York Times reporter happened to be present in Pakistan, and he wrote a story about Jihad Day. And that's the day you just passed the resolution in New York. So that's why we need people like Mohan to be there. I want to respectfully say this. There's nobody who has suffered as much for Kashmiri, but the cause, as Shri Pandit has, he has dedicated his life to it. And you know, our enemy is very good at figuring out who the people are, who people were this. As most of you know, they launched a very fierce attack, and their aim was to kill him. I think that's the way they think. They were going to file a false lawsuit. They were going to try and get him into J&K State, and then we were never heard about it. But anyway, it's good to see you. It's the first time I'm meeting you. Can't tell you how good we feel about you, your mission, and certainly want to support you. So I'm going to answer my dear wife's question before Sushil Pandit. Before Sushil Pandit. Why are we in the situation that we are? I will answer the question in two parts. So Dr. Bob, listen to this First, the answer as a Hindu. All of us in Kashmir are followers of the Devi. We follow Shri. If you go to Rig Veda, you find something interesting. In the Rig Veda, there is no mention of Durga, there is no mention of Kali, there is no mention of Sharda, there is no mention of Sharika, there is no mention of any of the goddesses that we have called. There is no Devi Mahatmya, there is none of that. The goddess that is mentioned the most in the Rig Veda, her name is Dawn. Some of you may click something as to why I'm mentioning Dawn. And Dawn, you will recognize her. Her Sanskrit name is Usha. She is a goddess that's mentioned in the Rig Veda more than any other. How is she described? What is her Shakti? What is her Shakti? Now listen to this very carefully, and you will see why he can rightly claim that he is a Hindu and we cannot claim that. Because the word Usha stands for I am the life of life and the death of death. I am the life of life and the death of death. We've done too much of this business of saying we are the light. Too much of that business. We haven't also recognized that dawn in the morning represents the death of death. That when you see darkness, you have an obligation like dawn to step forth and destroy. And to the degree Sushil is taking that step forth, he's been able. We have to learn from that in our own small world. Now coming to Kashmiri countries. With one small suggestion, Sushil, the genocide of Hindus actually is much older than the Pakistan. It actually goes back much far. This is not the place to talk about it as to how it is, but I have written about it and I've called it the long war. But it's much more ancient than that. But specifically in Kashmir Valley, when Hamdani came in, he knew that Kashmiri Pandits are fierce, fierce, fierce warriors. Do not be taken by the mistaken notions we have. We are fierce warriors. We send more representatives of the community per capita to the Indian Armed Forces than any other community in India. We have shed blood in France. When the Germans fired mustard gas for the first time, there was a Kashmiri Pandit who laid down his life. We have shed blood in Afghanistan. When the British went and retook Afghanistan, there are Kashmiri Pandits in the graves there. We were laying our blood in the British Air Force in the Burma. We have more Kashmiri Pandits in the Indian Armed Forces who have served as officers than any other martial group. Hamdani recognized that. And Hamdani disarmed the Kashmiri Pandits. And wherever in the world the community is disarmed and cannot bear arms, it's a prelude to jealousy. That is the answer at the level of Hindu. We have forgotten what we have been. Light of life, but death of death. And once you accept you're going to be disarmed, you're done. Now with that, you can answer your sister's question.
Get a better answer than him and Ruviti explaining it to you. But if I dare add just a line more, we are faced with predatory theologies. They prove nobody else's existence. When I use the word pagans and heathens and kafirs, we are meant to be eliminated. We are a fair game. And if a set of people think that they are on with this mission as an agenda, earlier my historians used to whitewash this and say, listen, they broke your temples because there was so much gold and precious stones stored there, and invaders and plunderers. Where else will they go except places where they find so much wealth? So you are responsible. This victim bashing, this victim blaming the victim. It's very easy. You spin things around, and when you ask them, but how much gold was there in Nalanda for Bhaktiar Khilji to plunder it? And what kind of a wealth did he take away from the monks, the teachers, and the students in thousands who were slaughtered? And what wealth did he generate by burning their library, which smoldered for more than 6 months? If that wasn't visceral hate for a civilization, for a culture, for a knowledge tradition, what else was this? That's what they did to Hampi. When you see something nice and beautiful, very often tendency is that we covet it. We say, I wish I had. Right? When a victor takes over an empire and its capital like Hampi, chances you expect from them is to gloat over this new possession. The pillars, the carved pillars were seen as poetry in stone. That's how they were described. And when you go with hammer to break into smithereens, what kind of a mindset is this that destroys you? Because it cannot claim it as his own. It will always be seen as stolen. So I would rather destroy it. What kind of a mindset makes you take a cannon to those Bamiyan Buddhas of 90 feet high, when they can't even speak, when there are no adherents of that faith left, and you still go and blow them to smithereens? So if they don't spare a stone image which can't speak or do anything, a martyred temple or a Hampi city, why would they spare a living, breathing, thinking individual or a community? who's unwilling to agree. So we are paying the price for being Hindus. Sooner we realize
Being smart, right?
Sooner we realize this, we are paying the price for being Hindus. You could have stayed back there and you ceased to be a Hindu. That was easy. And
I was gonna say, we're also embarrassed to be Hindu, right? You know, if you actually take a front or whatever else, we feel uncomfortable doing that, you know, and I think that also creates issues, right? Because even in India, you have so many Indians who themselves, when things, you know, when Shri lost their, you know, Wi-Fi and everything else, you have Hindus who are saying, oh my God, the poor Muslims or whatever else. The Indian government is not doing it. So you have our own people, our own religion, who are not even comfortable with saying that, hey, this is what occurred, you know, 30 years ago, and but they feel that they have to be nice to them or they have to appease them or whatever else. And I think that's something that we need to get more comfortable, that it's okay to be strong, to sort of, you know, take some arms or whatever, to feel that we're empowered or what. I think that's also very important.
there's a phrase for it. It's called virtue signaling. When you are a Hindu and you browbeat Hindus, or when you self-flagellate yourself in public, you're virtue signaling. See, I'm a Hindu, but I don't mind bashing Hinduism and bashing Hindus and taking a counter position. That too is a meaning. We all suffer collectively. Yes, sir.
I have a comment and then a question. First time I met Mr. Pandit a month ago, and I've been watching his videos for years. I said, Sushil ji, you know more about Kashmir than God does. And he started to laugh, and that was not a joke. I think his knowledge of Kashmir is more than anybody else alive today, except Rakesh Paul. The issue here is the solution to the problem. And it would have been nice if Hindus in Pakistan were crying, please save Hindus, because they're less than 2%. What a shame. In our country, we are 75%, and we are saying, please save Hindus. We all live in US. Can you imagine white people cry in United States and say, please save white people? The problem is not Muslims, problem is Hindus. The day we start criticizing ourselves, that's when we will be Sanatanis. Otherwise, we will be as stupid as Islamists are. That they see nothing wrong with the religion, they see nothing wrong with the policies of Islam. What we have done in the last few hundred years, I'm sure 1,000 years ago we were great society, and that's why after Qasim attacked Sindh, he was thrown back by Rajputs from Rajasthan. What has happened the last 1,000 years is we have adopted peace, and then Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi made us more coward. You know, turn your other cheek. Now we don't realize in our own country, 18% Muslims have made our lives so bad that we are running from one state to the other. The issue is, what do we need to do? Can Modi do everything? Absolutely not. Until Hindus learn how to fight, you're going to lose your country. And I'm sorry to say, which may hurt a lot of Kashmiris, I'm Pandit too. But you know, I did not hear once that when all this jihad started in Kashmir, there were 50 Kashmiri youth people who picked up the guns and killed 1,000 Muslims. Can you give me one example of that? Absolutely not. Why not? Why is our life so precious to us only? Why not it's precious to Muslims? Why did 1,000 Kashmiri Hindus pick up guns and say, you know what, let me kill a couple of thousand Muslims?
They are throwing Hindus out in
No,
Delhi.
no, absolutely not.
They are throwing everyone out everywhere.
What's happening is we Hindus,
Where does the Pandit think?
we Hindus have started to learn that peace is the key.
We don't want to become like.
No, that-
I mean, they're not a-
Okay, so that's the
We don't
problem.
want to become like.
If we don't want to be like them, we will be
what is the
eliminated.
difference? Then what is the difference between them and us?
I'll give it to. So thank you for asking this question, and this has been often asked of me. This, and every time this comes up, it gives me an opportunity to address it so that fewer people ask such questions later. And this question deserves an answer. If you knew how Kashmiri Hindus lived in Kashmir, you would know. Kashmiri Hindu population in the valley of Kashmir is barely 5%. Okay. And this 5% will live in clusters, like you see ghettos in India, where Islamists live. For example, Bhatkal, a coastal town in Karnataka now, is 96% Muslim. Those 4% non-Muslims stay in the territory and perhaps are packing their bags, trying to find decent price for their home. We never lived in ghettos. We even lived in the minority of one household surrounded by others. We were all over Kashmir, in every mohalla, in every district, almost in every village. If we didn't live there, we had access to it as teachers, as postmen, as doctors, as civil servants. We were spread, this 5% population was spread thin. That's number one. Number two, as Rakesh said, we were disarmed. We were completely disarmed. We did not have more than a kitchen knife. And what we were up against were Kalashnikovs, were rocket-propelled grenades, were hand grenades, were pistols. We stood no chance. Shri, we were thoroughly unprepared. We lived in this illusion that we lived in a country of 900 million. In 1990, the size of our population was 90 crores. We had an army sitting in Badami Bagh camp. We had a parliament full of 800 MPs and an elected prime minister and a Supreme Court and dozens of high courts and hundreds of session judges and magistrates. We thought in this day and age, where India is signatory to the Declaration of Human Rights, if anyone harbored even an iota of bad intent against us, our country would turn on him like a ton of bricks. We harbored this delusion. And this turned out to be an illusion. But so long as the tricolor fluttered on our secretariat, we were safe with our paramilitary and police. None of it worked. Yes, we were fools to have taken all this as a guarantee of our security. Two, the demography, the composition of this community. You're a white-collar, educated community, 100% literacy, not literacy, 100% education. No exceptions. You know, today when you look at the literacy levels in other states, you say 96%, 95%, 100%, and 0% crime. I dare you find me one Kashmiri Pandit in any jail anywhere in the world. 0% crime. We were not brought up that. Yes, we wielded guns for the army. Told you we had even a chief of the army staff, the end Rhino, between 1977 and 79. Led our army with gallantry awards. We still have serving officers. The only Mahavir Chakra in Navy is the name of Kashmiri Pandit, Captain Mullah. Should we take to arms? Yes, I think in hindsight, we should. I swear, every time I see Pitta Karate, I wish I had a gun and he was in proximity. this question for the first time. But our circumstances were such that we were left defenseless, and nobody was prepared to give us arms. We live in a country, if we pick up arms, our own state will come after us. Our own state will come after us. Our state did not support us. I'll give you an example. Have you heard of DIG Vanzara? DIG Vanzara served the Gujarat police, an IPS officer. He killed in an encounter someone called Sohrabuddin. Sohrabuddin was a known gangster, a history cheater, man charges of drug running, gun running, extortion, multiple murders, abduction. He was a Supari killer. He was finished off in an encounter by DIG. Some human rights organization said this was a fake encounter. Now, this man was licensed to kill. He was a police officer. He led that encounter team. He served 10 years in jail. This is what our state does to people who are tasked with this responsibility. You know what happened to colleagues of KPS Gill who brought Punjab back from the disaster? They had to commit suicides on railway tracks. This is how our country, our system, our establishment, which is seized from within. Why do you think Supreme Court opens at 2 a.m. in the morning for Afzal Guru of a Yaqub man and throws away our petitions repeatedly? What kind of a state are we living in? What kind of a system are we living in? It doesn't even acknowledge what happened to us. Forget helping us fight back. I spoke to, and I'm again sharing a fact. In 92, General Malik, who rose to become our chief army staff for the Kargil war, was a brigadier in Kashmir, serving. We lived in his house, rented accommodation in Somsehar, Delhi, 7th floor. He has in my in-laws, so he would often come, and one day I was introduced to him. And he sympathized, and I said, listen. And the insurgency was raging, and I said, our army, our security forces gone from all parts of the country are unaware of the terrain, are unaware of the language, are very often misguided by the local police, which is infested with Jamatis. Perhaps you need a band of 100 odd Kashmiri boys who would help, because we knew the lay of the land. We knew who the people of mischief. We knew the language. You need us. And I can get together. I was young. I was less than 30 at that time. He looked at me, he smiled. He never came back to me. Our state would do it. It won't let anybody else do it. It is very easy, and sometimes it comes like an impulse. Why couldn't we do it? Why can't we do it? Of course. But if you look at the details of the circumstances, at 5% of the population and no arms, we could still perhaps do it. But you know at what cost? Your old parents, your mothers and sisters and your young children would be risked brutalization by the enemy who knew nothing in terms of mercy and compassion. And we stood no chance to come back and fight. But if we had to commit that kind of suicide, we could have. But I think people made their judgment at that time.
We didn't even have a chance to commit that suicide, let me tell you.
Sorry?
We didn't even get that chance to commit that.
So what I'm saying is, this is what.
I mean, my father was in the army. I mean, he was there, he extended his stay, he was retiring. He stayed there for 3 extra years. He fought with the terrorists there. Nobody knows his name today. And they gave the Veer Chakra to the general who was sitting in Delhi. this is how the Indian government must be behaving with us.
So
Even Hindus outside Kashmir, what are they doing these days?
I just want to give everyone a pause here and give you a minute to think about it. I left Kashmir on January 21, 1990. I was there throughout those 3 nights. So let me give you a scene. So January 19, 1990, we are sitting in our homes. As Sushil said, 5% against 95%. We are scattered throughout the valley, all our relatives, everyone, different parts of the country, different parts of the state. And in the evening, there starts the announcements from the mosques. The public, they start announcing, and it becomes louder and louder and louder and louder to a pitch where they are calling everyone to the street and saying that काफिरों को मार डालो, यहाँ क्या चलेगा निज़ाम मुस्तफा, ये churros relief tselio, isnimo Kashir badnersan battalions. If you don't understand Kashmiri, that means that we will take Kashmir today, tonight, with Kashmiri Pandit women and kill all the men. And if you have to stay here, you either have to join us, or you will be killed, or you run away. So here's the thing. We are 5%. Within hours, we are in a house, 5 or 10 of us, 5 of us. We closed all the windows, put blankets so that the light would not go up. We turned off the lights so that our neighbors did not see a whisper or a flicker of light coming from our house. And we hardly breathed. We were like sitting like, kind of as if to stone. Hour after hour after hour, ready that any minute, people will come and kill us. There were women, and we knew what our outcome was going to be. And this is for the first time I'm saying that, and I shouldn't probably. And this was absurd that we put 3 pajamas on. And what would that do? My friend, her parents hid her, it was January, it was cold. They hid her in an outside shed where they used to put firewood. They said, well, we'll be killed tonight, but you stay there. Save yourself. Of course, she wouldn't have been saved if they were killed. So I don't know what saved us that day. Hour after hour after hour, we knew we were going to be killed. We didn't have an arms. We depended on the state. Do you know how many calls we made from my house to the local police station? To the army headquarters. We are being targeted, we will be killed. Can you come? Can you help us? No one picked the phone. No one picked the phone.
Those police guys were in the procession.
Everyone. And the mob was encroaching on our house. The mob was literally encroaching. And I'm telling you, I still do not understand what stopped them from doing this. 5% against 95. Even if we had a pistol, we had whatever we had, firearm, how many could we kill? How many could we kill? 5, 10, 15? There were thousands outside.
Actually, like look at Delhi, there were riots 3 years back.
You cannot
Hindus
save
didn't
yourself.
fight. What did Hindus
And
do?
even if we
Their
did that,
majority,
we
they
wouldn't be here to tell our story. We would not be here.
I have a lot of friends who keep on blaming, Kashmiris left.
And
in India,
when I fled and I went to Mulchan Hospital, big hospital, I worked there. Do you know, when I first day entered, and this again, I have not shared with many people. When I entered, this is a prestigious hospital, Department of Gynecology and Obstetrics. I'm a junior resident. I'm walking in, and the head of the department says, 20, 30 doctors there says, who is that girl? And one of her associates said that she's a new doctor. She has just come from Kashmir. She's from Kashmir, and she said, "You to bhag ke hai. Call them cowards." This is in Delhi, Mulchan. This is the reception I got. And do you know what happened? A tear just came down my eyes. When people ask me, you spent so many hours doing this, I remember those days when I was humiliated for being a Kashmiri Pandit because I did not defend myself. And I had to say, I had no answers. I'm like, These people have no clue where we are coming from. We just cried silently for years and years and years. I don't think we can do it. It just come to a point where we just have had. Yeah.
He's trying to say that afterwards, why did we pick up? We used our brains. There is something called Rashtra Rifles. I don't know if you know what is Rashtra Rifles. Do you know what is Rashtra Rifles? It was a special organization created by the Indian government to fight against the terrorists. They were all kind of hardened soldiers were going in that. And a lot of Kashmiri youths joined those Rashtra Rifles and went and fought against terrorists. That's how they did it.
I'm going to ask one question. Fleeing from Afghanistan, how many Hindus and Sikhs picked up guns to kill Kashmiris? Fleeing from Bangladesh, how many Bengali Hindus picked up guns to massacre Muslims?
How many
In Kerala, in Malappuram, how many
What would an
Hindus,
Indian Hindu
instead of
do?
packing their bags, pick up guns and start slaughtering Muslims? Just a moment, just I'm finished.
Dinner is ready.
You know,
Sorry, I mean, after the discussion.
you know, what happens is, people, I'm putting very crudely, please don't take it otherwise. No, I'm not going to use it. Sorry. I'll use my discretion. We Hindus need to empathize with each other's situation. Sometimes out of lack of appreciation of the ground situation, lack of information about the environment, logistics, and the nick of the time, the choices that you have to make. Choices that you have to make. In hindsight, sometimes you can act brave. At that time, you know, I wait for a minute longer for dinner. I used to visit Doordarshan very often to be part of their news shows. And there's a lady who worked there as an engineer. And once the producer of the program, after the program, called me to the guest room and said, let's have a cup of tea. Somebody wanted to meet you. And she came running and said, every time you appear on TV, my husband asked me, did you meet him today? And I have always missed meeting you because I'm very often busy. So I thought made a point that I will meet you today. So I said, okay, where were you on that fateful night? Because this is the question we generally ask when we leave Kashmir and what happened in circumstances. She lived in Balidan. She said our house was on Jhelum with ample kind of window, we call it up. 3-story house. There was a huge mob gathered outside our house. Me, my younger sister, my mother, and our father. Just the 4 of us. The father said, listen, they're beating at our door. He picked up a backpack kind of thing with which they would, create firewood from the logs. He said, I'm awesome, Danda, and he said, I'm going to guard the door. But if they break the door open and I scream, you all have to jump from this window. This is 9th of January into the river. So, since my mother said yes, I said yes. My younger sister said, I don't know how to swim. I'm not going to jump. Since my father glared at her, and he just stood there for a moment, and my mother told my father, you go, I'll first push her, and then I'll jump. You don't know what situation people are in sometimes. You jump to judgments and conclusions. It is always left to people who are faced with most difficult choices in their lives. Decide. Please.
I didn't want to offend anyone. I think that's why I said some of you may get very hurt with my question. I did not just criticize Kashmiri Hindus. I criticize Hindus in general. I don't know if you were paying attention when I told you 75% Hindus in India are saying, save us. Our character has changed from in the last 1,000 years. If Hindus don't wake up now and always find an excuse that whole world is one family, believe me, you will assimilate with those 2 billion people, you will make them 3 billion sooner or later. Either wake up now and say, yes, we have been making mistake as Hindus, that we are always scared and we don't want to fight. One day you will have to fight. And I can tell you right now, unless 150 lakh people in India, Muslim convert, there will be a civil war 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now in India. You will have to pick up the guns that day. And I don't know how many of us will be alive, but that situation will come. And this, not that I'm predicting anything, but this is what will happen. You all will have to pick up guns that day and say, okay, what? We don't want to believe in peace, and this way or the other way. Thank you.
It'll be too late by then.
I'm so sorry, we do have to wrap up this program. I do want to thank each and every one of you for making, today, I know the traffic was horrendous, but it was a very stimulating discussion today. And thank you to Sushil, of course, who started the discussion, and thank you all of you for being a participant. I do want to thank Sunil ji for helping us out in planning of this program. You've been very gracious. Thank you so much, Sunil ji. And please step here so that people can see who Sunil Ji is. Please, let us give you, yes, please a round of applause for Sunil ji here. Thank you so much.
I was not even prepared for this, but so I have been fortunate to be connected with 3 exceptional individuals. One is here, Rakesh, like my brother, Dr. Mohan Wanchoo and Rajiv Kaur, who have given me so much knowledge about Kashmir, which I did not have. And since then, I made a resolution that whatever little I can do for Kashmir, for India, I'll continue to do. And this was just a small task, but I really, really thank Sushil. Here is he. Sushil is, I wish I could go into his brain and pluck it out and know what all he knows. And not to keep it in my head, but to spread it all over the world. But I promise that whatever little access I have with the world today and growing every day through our radio, through our television, through our newspapers, we'll make sure anything and everything must go out, because we realized it last year when Kashmir Files was brought by Rakesh ji and Surinder ji, and when Mukesh, I, some other people got together, made a plan to market it. We knew we were creating 4,700 bombs. These individuals who will learn about Kashmir Files will go and tell everybody else. But by the same token, what we all learned today, it's a simple request. We are all day on WhatsApp and Facebook and whatnot. Can you make sure, if not every day, every other day, until the day comes 19th January 2023, we let the world know there is going to be a start of a revolution, and we must all participate in whatever capacity we can do. I really thank Bobby Kumar, my brother, who gave us graciously the space. I want to thank Raj Bhog for giving us good food. We want to thank the media, TV Asia, ITV, and Ashok ji, who is here, and anybody else who has come here from wherever they are for being here. Thank you very much.
And we also wanted to thank Mukesh Modi ji. I think he had to leave a little early for helping us in putting this program together. And last but not the least, thank you so much, Sushil ji, for coming here and sharing the valuable information with us. Thank you very much, Archana ji, and your entire team for helping in putting this program together. And thank you very much, Ashok ji, and all the other media folks that came here and covered this program. Thank you all very much. And on your way out, if you could please drop off the candles at the desk outside, sorry, the table outside, that would be really appreciated. Thank you so much.
And I'm going to thank you, Mohan ji. We'll thank each other. Thank you so much. Without you, this program would not have been completed. And thanks so much. Let's all have dinner. Thank you.
We should take a picture with you guys also. मैं बोलता हूँ. Sir, I look
They saw me this.
That's all I want to know. Oh, right, okay. I thought you were-
Let's see, let's see, let's see.
He's like,